Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless.
Well, here we are. It's the Keep Hammering Collective with Evan Hafer. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me, Cam. I appreciate it.
Have you been here before to Eugene's
No,
field?
no. Somebody was telling me this on the way down here from Seattle. They're calling it Track City. Is that what it's called? Or
Tracktown, USA.
Tracktown, USA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you know, Steve Prefontaine, I don't know if you know him. He was from here, and then the University of Oregon, big track. I don't know, history, and the Olympic trials are here often. We just had the World Championships here, so a lot of big track mates. But yeah, it's definitely Tracktown.
It's Tracktown. Did you run track?
No.
You didn't run track?
Football, basketball, baseball.
Okay.
No track.
So I stole. I want to start your podcast with saying I stole this hat from your bathroom.
I like that hat. Where's that hat from, Tanner? Huh?
eBay.
eBay.
I was like, corduroy.
That's hey, those are like the gas station hats.
Yeah.
I used to buy those all the time.
Yeah.
It was like the trucker hat, foam.
Yeah.
And I remember I had one, if I was going to hunt bear, it had a bear on it. If I had another one, if it had a deer on it, and that works right there.
It works. My grandpa, old school Idahoan logger, he had this this hat growing up. Obviously, rural logging community in northern Idaho. My grandpa did everything. He was like the judge, the grave digger, the television repairman. Like he did everything. Yeah, 800 people in the town.
Right.
But I would drive around with him as he was doing. He would go out and check meters for water in his old Toyota truck, and he had this foam hat with a pheasant on it, and it said Idaho, big cock country. I never understood what it meant.
Yeah.
Like I remember, he had like a wide variety of profanity that he would be able to throw at different things, and I would get these visual representations as my grandpa's saying something. I'm like, I don't have any clue what that is. Why is he wearing that stupid hat with a pheasant on it? That's Idaho.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of, I think it's Anchorman, and he puts his leg up there and he says, feel that. And he's like, feels his lower leg. He's like, feels like a rock hard cock, doesn't it? Something like that. I know, cock's just a good word. It is. It's a powerful word.
It's a very powerful word.
Yeah.
I love Oregon. I'm from right on the border, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, right there. But my uncle was a school teacher in La Grande for 30 years. So like I've spent a lot of time out here. He's such a cool guy. He had an old mine out in was it the Llamas? Yeah. He had a mining claim out there, and so he was teaching school, driving truck. He had a little farm. Had a mine. He had
looking for gold or what?
Yeah.
Gold.
Yeah. He'd go out for weeks on end.
I used to drive through La Grande every year going elk hunting, because the Llamas is where I hunted the Eagle Cap Wilderness, and that's awesome, just awesome elk country. But yeah, La Grande is that's a good place to live.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's a small town.
Where we deer hunt, or I'm going to take Truett, and this weekend there's a guy there who's always in the creek there looking for gold. He's got his what is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but he gets rocks in there, shakes them around, looks for the gold flakes,
right?
And he's got that in the creek. But apparently they find gold there too.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I always think about that, like cruising around in the mountains, where they used to mine gold, and up in northern Idaho. I'm like, is there any gold left in this place? Like, if they just like pull it all out.
That's the question. That's why they keep looking.
Yeah, they keep looking.
Yeah.
He used to bring it out. He's such a cool guy. He died a few years ago, and he used to pull out the little shaker vial of gold and
flakes.
Let us check it out. And he was such an eccentric, cool guy to be around. He was really used and comfortable being around kids because he was a teacher, right? And he had 3 or 4 kids of his own.
Yeah.
we'd go out there and he would do these slideshows that were the fucking most boring thing you could have ever imagined in your life. Like
slides of what?
Of like him in his cabin, you know, like panning for gold.
Around
yeah,
turn off the lights, put a sheet up type thing.
And I would go out there and I'd be like, gosh, I want to hang out with Guy. It was my Uncle Guy. But do we have to do this slideshow? Like, this is so bad. But I could just imagine him as a teacher.
Yeah.
Such an interesting and eccentric guy that just loves a bunch of cool stuff, lives kind of out in a remote farming area. And he always had like this, like a profound desire to go out and do really, really interesting, hard things, you know? Like his mind was 20 miles off grid.
Yeah.
Right. Or, you know, and he built the cabin by hand out in the middle of nowhere. He would pull in all the supplies and do all the logistics support by himself. And he'd be out there for weeks on end by himself. It was like,
yeah, it's the simple life.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about having purpose, you know, so he knew what his purpose was, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he had a goal. He wanted to do this. Didn't matter how long it took or who was there. It'd be pretty freeing to, you know, we have nowadays, everything is weighing on us. People are tugging on us. We want to, you know, make an impact here and there. And it's, man, the simple life sounds pretty good sometimes.
Yeah. How much of that do you kind of get into when you're disconnected from your phone? Do you find it a positive experience, or do you find it gives you a bit of anxiety?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love when we're going. There's, you know, most places or a lot of places I hunt, there is no service.
Right.
You know, so I just like, I'm trying to think, you know, we were in Colorado this year and I had 3 tags. So we were hunting, doing big walks, covering lots of country. And I just like being in the mountains walking.
Right.
I mean, just don't have to be anywhere. Just get the wind in your face. That's it. Then see what you find. Right. You know, I'm looking for, I don't know, always looking for arrowheads. Always looking for sheds or for deadheads or just cool wallows or rubs or you never know. I just like exploring. That's, to me, that's where I'm most at peace.
Right.
And then if I can kill something, I got my bow there and we're good to go. But yeah, I don't know. How about you? What do you think?
I find being completely disconnected and in the wilderness is probably, like, outside of spending time with my kids, it's my favorite thing. Like I think if I ever, like, you know, fall off of social media, people know where I'm at. Like, I mean, I'll be in the mountains like constantly. I used to come back from deployments and I would do, it was the R's is what I called it. And reading, running, river rafting, because I spent a lot of time rowing boats. So it was like just R's. I'd just go up into the mountains. I had a little camper that I'd throw in the back of my Toyota, and I would spend 3 weeks or a month driving around.
But by yourself?
Yeah.
Really?
My dog, yeah. Me and my dog. And I'd throw my kettlebells and my Olympic bar in the back of the camper. And I still do a lot of fly fishing too. Like I love to fly fish. I like quiet and solitary things. And I truly enjoy them.
Yeah, I was just curious when you were saying all that. So where you grew up in Idaho, and now are you CEO of Black Rifle Coffee? Is that right?
Yeah. I'm the CEO, founder, and yeah, that's kind of my job, I guess.
How does one go from the small town in Idaho, right? And then you enlisted, and did you sign you're a Green Beret, right?
Yeah.
Did you sign a contract for that, or were you just regular enlisted, then evolved into it? Or?
Yeah, I was an infantry guy. I was going to school. I was in what's called the simultaneous membership program, which is like ROTC and the National Guard. And then between my junior and senior year, I went to Special Forces Assessment and Selection, so I wouldn't have to go to what's called advanced camp and become an officer. Basically, the short of the long is, I've always just kind of been a bit controversial in everything I do. So I had punched some kid that was a senior in ROTC, which is not out of the ordinary for me in my younger.
Yeah.
You know, you grew up short. You know, you just learn to like punch people in the face before they like before they.
Anything.
Yeah, you just learn how to do it, man. You just like, I'm going to shut you up before you get a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm 5'7". On a good day, I weigh 160 pounds, right? And you know, my parents and my grandfather raised me. He was a short guy too. He's like, take no shit.
Yeah.
You know, like press their button if they're gonna pick on you.
Beat them to the punch.
Beat them, yeah, so to speak. So I kind of jettisoned out and went to selection and became a Green Beret. I did that for a few years. And then I went over to the CIA for a few years, for about 10 years. Between that, I mean, I did about 43 different 3 to 5 month rotations to Iraq and Afghanistan. As a contractor, like I said, it's called a direct contractor for the CIA. And I stayed in the Guard. I was an SF Green Beret doing stuff out of 19th Group, and kind of did a bunch of stuff, man. I worked in Africa for a while. I worked at the agency. Did kind of a what I would say is the paramilitary rounds, I guess, and it was just interesting. It was interesting things that I wanted to do. I wanted to see different parts of the world. I wanted to be engaged in different areas of the world. And then when I left, it wasn't hard. I was into coffee, and I in 1997, I came out to the University of Washington, and I'd met this girl in my anthropology class that worked at a coffee shop.
It was a good class. I liked anthropology.
It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, it
was interesting.
I always remember when I use the term atlatl, I always remember Anthropology 101, and I had this like kooky professor that was way into hunting with like longbows and primitive hunting devices, and I built with a group of other 3 or 4 students. We built an atlatl, and it was awesome. It was such a cool class.
Yeah.
But I met this girl, and I wanted to get to know her. She worked at a coffee shop in 1997, and I was like going to the coffee shop all the time, ordering espresso.
Was it one of those bikini coffee shops?
No. She was a good person. She wasn't like throwing them titties out trying to earn a couple bucks, right?
Yeah, because a lot of guys spend a lot of money at those coffee shops.
I have. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it's convenient, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's on the way to work. You're like, oh, I don't know. They can't pull a shot to save their ass. But
no, beer and titties.
I
mean, good combination.
Yeah,
or not beer, coffee and titties.
Coffee, yeah. And they're still cool. I still like them. I mean, I don't not tell my wife like, oh, yuck, put on that shirt. I'm like, take that shirt off. Throw those things around. Come on. Yeah. Don't be shy.
Yeah. No, I know. It works. It sells.
It's still cool.
Yeah, it's still cool. Definitely.
It's still cool.
So she inspired your love of coffee.
Yeah. That was the first of it. And then Seattle had this emerging kind of micro small batch roaster specialty coffee scene that was really emerging in the late 90s. And
when did Starbucks start? Was it around
early 90s, like
time?
80s?
So
Yeah,
it was like an offshoot of Starbucks a little bit.
They kind of kicked it. It's called it's called first, second, third wave. And so first wave, you could just kind of like pin that at like Folgers Maxwell House. Second wave, you could say is like
Flavor Crystals.
Yeah.
Remember
like
Flavor Crystals?
Yeah. God, what were those things called? What was the name of that fucking coffee? God,
U-Ban?
Well, yeah, U-Ban. You see it at your grandpa's house or your uncle's. Just like the worst.
Oh, yeah. It tasted terrible.
So bad. So I got into coffee roasting. And I'll tell you exactly the month and date that like espresso changed my life. And it was November of 1997 in a cart espresso maker in Capitol Hill in Seattle. And the coffee shop is called Vivace Coffee, and it's still there. He's got 3. He might have more now. I was just in Seattle. But it was the single greatest shot of espresso I've ever had in my life. And it was life-changing. So there's not too many people who can say, I know when the date and time. No. And at that point, I went and got this book on espresso, and I was really into it. And I was going to go be a Green Beret and then come back to coffee. It's like, I'm going to go do something in coffee. But then these pesky global war on terror things kept happening, and I was like, this sounds pretty interesting. And, you know, I thought it was maybe going to last 2 or 3 years, and then it just kept going on and on. And I met my wife, who had a coffee shop in Denver, Colorado in 2014. And I had been roasting coffee, and I'd roasted thousands and thousands of pounds of coffee. And my wife had a coffee shop for several years, and I was like, shit, we can put these two things together. Yeah. And there you go, Black Rifle Coffee.
On all your deployments, you mentioned, what was the most important work you think you did during that time? If you had to look back at your career, what stands out?
You know, it's hard to say because there's mixed emotions about it in the context of, you know, the invasion of Iraq was important. I think, you know, my feelings about it are, you know, the soldiers and the sailors, the airmen, the guy that actually fought the wars. We did our job. Like we did a damn good job doing it. You know, our politicians continue to F it up, like just like paint by numbers. And, you know, I would say regime change would have worked if we would have had the political wherewithal to make sure the Iranians didn't come back in from the Shia side, which was, you know, you kind of have we'll say the Shia and the Sunni. And we essentially popped a cap on it, pushed out the Ba'ath Party, and then handed it back to Iranian influence. And I'm just not in the business of, you know, sacrificing, you know, my friends and my time so we can hand shit over to the Iranians. Like, it makes me feel really angry. Yeah. You know, but I think out of all the things that we did in, you know, Iraq and Afghanistan, I think we did a ton of important work. I think it would have been way more relevant if we would have had the political wherewithal and the strategy to implement a long-term pushback against what I would feel is our greatest strategic threats. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. And I don't find them in any, I'm not delusional, right? I'm like, they're bad actors. They're just bad actors. They're bad countries doing bad things. They're supporting terrorism. They're doing all kinds of really, really horrible shit all the time. And there has to be a logical and ethical international presence to represent American hegemony. People will take controversy. That's like a controversial statement because people don't want us to be the police of the world. We have to maintain economic hegemony because if we don't, China's going to take our place. Right. And I don't want to live in that world where China has international control over what we do from a capitalistic perspective. I just don't. So I do think that it's, you know, having a robust military, doing the things that we did, I think there was a lot of the right idea, the wrong follow through. Like, Saddam was a bad guy. Whoever says he wasn't, no, he was a piece of shit. Like, him and his sons were like, they were really, really unethical, like to the point of which we wouldn't even recognize it from an ethics perspective. But maybe he was the only guy that could have maintained control out of that country because it's a mess. Right. But I think out of everything, to go back to your point, I did a lot of work in Afghanistan leading up to the bin Laden raid around asset and information collection, which was really important. I had a couple years there where I was really active in pursuing a lot of bad guys, and I think that was probably the most important work I did. And then I had the opportunity to go out and train other people for stabilization and region stabilization around counter poaching in Botswana, which was northern Africa, or northern Botswana and the Okavango Delta. Went to the Southeast Asia and the Philippines and trained guys to protect themselves against terrorism. You know, terrorism is a legitimate threat. We see it unfolding today. We see how Hamas can destabilize an entire region. We see it. It is something that I think we should be involved in as far as a pushback. It's a really it's terrorism is exactly what that is. It's psychological terror. Yeah. And it puts people into a circumstance of unease where they can't live happy and fulfilling lives. And it doesn't matter if you're in Southeast Asia or the Middle East, wherever you go, if you're being terrorized by lunatics, right, your life is it's not as good as what you and I got. It's just not.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people say, well, we shouldn't be involved in wars in Ukraine and the Hamas situation over there. Right. And so your feelings is somebody has to, right? I mean, or somebody has to address the terrorism.
Somebody has to address the terrorism. And I have like a very contradicting opinion on some of this stuff. So bear with me while I just contradict myself all over the place. It doesn't really matter to me anymore because like I'm not a international strategic thought leader. My point with the Ukraine specific endeavor is that we can't continue to spend American blood and treasure in these countries to the point of which we're putting ourselves into national debt that will jeopardize our sovereignty. We can't, because it defeats the purpose.
Right.
And if we want to elect a different outcome, you know, I don't necessarily believe, even though I just said regime change could have been good in Iraq, it could have, if you would have executed and the follow through would have been correct. Could have been, right? Because we've done it before and it worked. Japan, I think, is a gleaming example. You know, Germany is a good example, but we haven't had the follow through in order to do it correctly for decades because we don't have the politicians that will execute against it and then implement a long-term economic strategic vision that ultimately uplifts the entire economy.
Well, why do you think that's I mean, we're supposedly the most advanced country, the smartest people. Why is that such a problem to follow through and have? Do they not want to solve it in some ways?
I don't think so. I think you have that's where I'll get into like contradicting myself in the Ukraine, which is I don't like Russia. I'm not like a Russia guy. I don't really care about it in one way or another. Russians are great. They're amazing people. I've got an incredible history. You know, Putin, whatever. He's a cartel leader. He's this, and that. There's nothing like redeemable necessarily about some of these people. They're all kind of like ego-driven, somewhat maniacal and sociopathic, right? They're all kind of like built on the same kind of psychological and genetic overlay. I'm just not in the business of spending billions and billions of American dollars if we don't have what I would say is clear, concise, goal-oriented objectives that allow us to withdraw in an organizational effort where we have clear success criteria. So the American public knows what we're getting into. What kind of bill are we signing up to pay for here? You don't go to a 5-star restaurant
it's and a blank check. It seems like,
like if you go to Denny's and they hand you a $10,000 bill, do you think you might be like, what did I just get here?
Yeah,
you know, like. So I think, you know, we as Americans, we have paid too much and too high of a cut, too high of a cost for these wars that we've been in for 2 decades now. It's too high of a cost. There's too much blood. There's too much treasure that's been pushed into these endeavors. It's too much. So now, if we do have something that we have to do, we don't have the endurance for it as a country. We don't have the appetite. We don't want it. And then you add the military industrial complex into this, which is like lobbying specifically, obviously, to implement basically the transference of wealth from the American taxpayer into the military industrial complex. That's why I'm such a proponent of special operations. It's a great return on the taxpayer investment. You can go direct to source. You can eliminate the threat, bring the guys home, move on with our life. Large scale conventional military occupations are super expensive, both in blood and treasure.
Yeah, deadly. Yeah,
deadly. And you can't just pull the plug and get out.
Yeah.
And
like special forces can go in, do your mission, come back.
Well, Afghanistan's a great example. I think we had cleared out the Taliban in October. By Christmas, the Taliban had essentially been pushed out of Afghanistan, something like that. Like, we'll just call it like January. And that was with sub 300 guys driving an entire unconventional guerrilla force out of a country, pushing them back into their caves. You did that with a handful of special operations guys and some Afghans. Well, talk about an incredible resource for us to be able to implement the elimination of a threat strategically with 300, 400 guys, combination of CIA and special forces. And then we started the war of occupation. Now that's where the real money comes in. And that's where the military industrial complex starts licking their chops, because they're like, we're going to move tanks now, right? We're going to build bases. We're going to move tanks. We're going to build MRAPs. We're going to arm everybody. That's when the exploitation of the capitalist system moves in. And when I'm saying that, we live in a relatively open society where we can lobby our representatives to spend our money if we build tanks and airplanes. Which is like, it's a little bit crazy. Like when you think about it. And by the way, I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to this. So whatever I say is probably, half cooked and a little bit salty based on the fact that I've spent the majority of my adult life in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah, I think they do a good job. I don't know if we can use the word good, but they're effective at convincing the public that we need to do this and move in and, have an occupation here. And, this is the right thing to do because America's the beacon of hope. And so we need to be there. And so they convince the public that to take pretty much all our money and invest there, weaken our country, financially and militarily, I guess, in some ways, if you're moving thousands of guys over there. When as you pointed out, 300 or 400 special ops guys are, so effective. And I was that had me curious. Why are our special forces guys so good? Why are we that effective? Do we have the best military, best training, best men?
I think every day that goes by, every day that we don't encourage a warrior class, like a class of what I would say is war fighters within our culture, people that are willing to pick up the sword and fight for us.
As we all know, I've been putting all my guests through a pretty good cardio session on Mount Pisgah. Go Ruck is a welcome new addition to the podcast and Lift, Run, Shoot series. I love the 80-pound sandbags, but I'm not sure how my guests feel about it. But what do they say? Pain is weakness leaving the body. All the people at Go Ruck are beasts, and I'm thrilled to partner with them. We use the rucks and sandbags on almost every episode, and now you can take your training to the next level as they are offering listeners 10% off when you use code CAM, C-A-M, at goruck.com. See you guys on the mountain. You better not forget that weight. Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops is a sponsor of the podcast, and that's especially powerful for me because I remember when Cabela's came to Springfield, Oregon, and I actually played a role in the opening of that store. Instead of cutting the grand opening ribbon with scissors, I shot it with an arrow, and it was just a monumental thing. I mean, everybody here in town was talking about, hey, are you going to go to Cabela's? Can you believe Cabela's is coming here to Springfield, Oregon? So I know what a staple those giants in the industry are. And it's one of the first places people go when they're looking to get geared up to become a hunter, is they go to Cabela's and buy everything they need. So I'm very excited that we've partnered together and we can help open up those outdoor and hunting opportunities to listeners of this podcast.
It's a time that's ticking away where we won't be. And
because you feel like that's like society's changing to where that's not celebrated to be a leader and a warrior.
You feel it. You know, I mean, I think we feel it in the national narrative. You have people every day trying to take our rights away, whether it's the right to bear arms, whether it's the right to hunt, whether it's like they want, you know, you hear it. You hear it with toxic masculinity, or you hear people trying to pull apart the men and women that protect our country every day, and they want to sign up to do it. They gladly will do it. And you know, I mean, you've seen the commercials, right? You've seen like I remember the CIA commercial they released. It made me want to vomit. You know, there's this lady that's talking about how she has like anxiety and depression. She's on like 12 different meds, and she's like, I work for the CIA. I'm like, really? That's great. Good for you. Yeah. Like, what do you do? Like, drive a forklift? Like, you shouldn't be doing anything, to be fair. Like,
not healthy.
It's not healthy. You know, it's just like this narrative around it's okay just to be you. Well, why not just be the better you? Like, work on yourself, you know, like
instead of making everybody else accept you with all your flaws, how about just be better?
Just be better.
Yeah.
Like, how much time do you spend training?
Right.
Like, I mean, a huge percentage of your adult life you've spent working hard to be passionate about the things that you believe in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Hours a day.
I mean, it says it right here. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you and I could roll out of bed and we could start our day with a pack of cigarettes and a carton or a gallon of ice cream. We could.
Yeah.
But that's weakness.
Yeah.
It's okay to put out the fact that you want to be strong. You want to succeed.
Discipline.
Yeah. Like Jocko says it, discipline equals freedom.
Right.
And people get trapped into this, what I think is ultimately a propaganda campaign, into saying it's okay to just do whatever impulse comes into your head, and you don't need discipline. And ultimately, discipline it's the problem. You've heard it.
Yeah,
you've heard it. It's disgusting.
Yeah. They turn like being fit into like a white thing.
Yeah.
You know, they want to make it that's racist somehow. Is training and working out. It's so you said the propaganda. So is the goal to make a dependent, weak society? Is what you think?
I think so. Yeah. I think that this is my, I don't know, half tinfoil hat, but it's actually not, because I think our enemies directly gain when we weaken our society and we degrade our warrior class. Because when we're not, and man, we've talked about this. I've talked about this downrange with guys all the time, where we have a pro-gun society of hunters. And we grew up with these things. We're really good with firearms. We are the best in the world with firearms. Like, we can match any tier 1 organization in the world and go up against them and take their lunch money every day. because we grew up with these things.
Yeah.
We grew up out in the woods. We grew up shooting with our, you know, our family. We grew up with these. They're embedded into the culture and the fiber of America. And it also, you know, I just read the statistic. We have 4.5 million firearms in the United States. It also prevents people from coming in here saying, yeah, I'm going to take it over. Yeah, I don't think so.
Right.
You know, hey, Red Dawn, that's not going to work out too well in Oregon, especially Eastern Oregon. It might work out great in Portland, but not in Eastern Oregon.
Right.
Those ranchers aren't going to really put up with it too long, right?
No. It's, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that got me thinking about something else. Did you notice in all your training and all your experience, did you notice a difference between rural guys and city guys as far as how good they were at the job? Yeah.
Yeah, I think rural guys, it lends them, the job in their life lends them to succeed at an easier, it's much easier for them. You know, like I grew up in a family and all my relatives were like loggers. They were, you know, falling trees, hooking logs. And they would work. They would get up really early and I would see them like packing saws, you know, living in the woods, and they would grind themselves into moon dust.
Yeah.
Like
toughest guys I know are loggers.
They are.
Yeah.
And they would live on coffee in Copenhagen. And they're just like up and down the mountains all day long. They're living on coffee in Copenhagen, you know, like fallen trees, and they're walking on logs in the middle of like on, you know, slanted down hills, doing like craziest shit you could imagine.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, you know, you go to special forces and this is going to be like a bunch of crazy guys doing crazy stuff. And you go to selection and I'm like, my uncle works harder than this every day. What?
Yeah.
Like you're giving me 3 meals a day. I get to sleep. My dad gets up at 4:30 in the morning. No offense, Jocko, but my dad gets up. He's 76 years old. He's been doing it since he was 18. Like it's not new for guys. I think it's just we lost contact with it. So if you grow up in a blue collar family where you watch people work hard, you go into that and you're like, yeah, it's just hard work. It's really hard work. It's hard, dangerous, and exciting work. So now you're going to pay me to jump out of airplanes at night with night vision goggles and you're going to give me a bunch of guns? What? This is shit I used to dream about.
Sounds pretty sick.
Sounds awesome. What are you kidding me? I mean, and now the older I get or whatever, you know, like we were talking about it yesterday with a bunch of my buddies. I was like, man, I can't believe they let us do that. That's crazy. These guys should not have let us do that.
Yeah. So other than the hardcore, I mean, I know they make you guys miserable to see what you're made of type thing, but as far as a lot of the work, sounds pretty fun.
Super fun. Super fun. Like I was just fortunate enough to be in that, you know, in that, I guess, track of people where you get to do a bunch of really, really fun stuff, but you have to go through a bunch of bullshit in order to get to the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you got to prove you can be trusted. You got to prove like you're not going to quit because it's the biggest problem. It's quitters. Like I say this a lot. It's like quitting is a malfunction in the DNA. Like if you have quitting in your DNA, if there's a thing that you know, like, you know, I'm going to quit. Well, that needs to be kind of eliminated from the team, right? It does, because you can't have quitters. You can't have guys in the middle of a gunfight deciding they just didn't want to get into this profession. It's like, what? No, man, this ain't the time. Like, you can't do it. And things get nasty. Like, they get really, really hard, like physically and psychologically. You're terrified. Anybody who says they're not terrified, they're fucking liars, or they have like a mental problem. You're terrified. Like, so you're doing the hardest physical thing that you've ever done, and you're terrified to the point of sometimes you're like your limbs don't even work.
Right.
And if you get through that and get on the other side, and you do that time after time again, it somewhat gets easier.
How'd you get through it? Because you had feelings like that. Or do you remember just being overwhelmed? And what'd you do?
Well, I started working on it before. I started working on just the psychological and stress, the response to basically sensory overload before. And I had to continue to work on it all the time. And I would do things intentionally that fucking terrified me.
Like
because what? Like rock climbing is a really easy one. I don't like heights. I'm not afraid of heights, but I'm not going to go out and like stand on the edge of your roof for fun, right? I'm not going to like stand on your deck and be like, "Well, look at me, I'm balancing." Like I don't like it. It's just not something I'm into. And I went out and I started doing a lot of rock climbing because it was terrifying, you know. And when you're placing pro and you're building a route and you're doing all this, and you got a guy below you, you don't know if that's going to hold. And if you're doing a multi-pitch climb and you're, 100, 200 feet in the air, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's terrifying. So I'd climb all the time. I don't like it, but I do it all the time because it scared the shit out of me.
Out of your comfort zone. Learn to deal with it. Not panic.
Not panic. Like, my hands would be shaking. Like, like I had Parkinson's trying to put, pro into a crack line because I didn't like it. It was terrifying. And I climbed all the time because it was like, if I can do this, then when it counts, when I need it to count, I might be able to control my emotions and not get so terrified I can't function. I like outdoor sports, so I started whitewater kayaking and climbing and doing a bunch of stuff like that because it's terrifying.
Were there guys that you learned from over there on how to deal with it, or that helped you, or is it just kind of everybody's on their own, just have to process it?
Everybody's kind of on their own. I mean, training helps. It does, but you're never really that terrified.
Training, yeah. No, it's controlled. It's
controlled. Like, you're going to be okay. You're not putting yourself into a scenario where it's you.
Yeah.
Whitewater kayaking, I still love it. I don't do a whole lot of it because I got kids and a family. I like bigger boats, but running a big river in a really small boat is terrifying.
I bet.
And I would go and do stuff like that, and I naturally would lend all my recreation. So everything around my life, inside and outside of my life, was completely built around, one, what are the psychological and stress factors that I might encounter? Yeah. How do I control it? And then how do I become fit to be able to accomplish the task and also control my stress? And then the first time you're in a gunfight, you actually don't know what's going on. Like, what? What is this? What's going on? Because it's happening too fast. Your mind can't really compute what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't really understand it until you're like, wait, okay, this is what we're doing now. Okay. And it changes. There's like, it's like a river almost. You go through a bad part and then you have a calm part, and you go through a bad part. And it's like so interesting how whitewater kayaking is so similar in different ways. So is climbing, because you might have a really difficult pitch that you're working your ass off on that you're going to hit. You're going to hit hard if you mess it up, and then you're going to rest.
Right.
And then it's like you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then combat, because then it became more of, now I'll get my reps in downrange. And then I started coming back home and I started really working on stress inoculation and how to really pull through those experiences into training. How do we really build a training scenario that allows us to really prepare? Because I hadn't seen anything like it in my training. So that became a really primary focus for me, was just trying to build something that replicated as close as you could. You can never get it like exact, but it's to come as close as you could. And I mean, you have to fucking torture people.
Yeah.
It is not a fun. I mean, it's kind of is for the instructor, but you have to like.
You have to find out what they're capable of to see if you put them in this position, they're going to fold or are they going to perform.
You have to, and it's your job. It's not only your job; it's your duty. It's your ethical responsibility to the force to keep people alive by putting them through the worst shit they've ever seen in their lives.
I can imagine that. Of course, I've never served. I got so much respect. My son has. You have. I look up to people who serve just like with so much admiration and a little jealousy in some ways. I wish I would have had my shit together, but I didn't. So, fuck. I'm just whatever, a loser. But
no.
But the team aspect of it, because I would assume it's a lot different if you're going through that with teammates as opposed to if you were in a situation by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, did you ever get separated or were you ever on your own on anything like that? It's just, you always had other guys there to rely on?
I always had another guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, training is always kind of individual. You know, it's an individual selection and assessment. And then you're put on a team, and then there are places and times when I'm alone, different countries, but there's like a guy a block away or whatever, right? We might be doing something like, surveillance or counter surveillance where we're setting up on a target, and you might be alone for a very short amount of time, but most of the time it's like twos, right? And I would be out with somebody else, but you're always with somebody else.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like you're like sleeping, in the same room with other guys. Like my entire adult life, like I was just thinking about this a lot where, I've never really been alone, right? It's like I would come home and be alone for a couple weeks at a time, but the rest of my time was like, I was in a team room with other dudes all the time. Like, sleeping in open bays, or sometimes you get your own room. A lot of times you would at the agency. You're with guys all the time, and you're the fucking worst. Like that's the other thing that people don't understand is like a team room is the most politically incorrect environment you can spend your time. You're the grossest humans on the planet because you're doing the most politically incorrect act available in our professional work environment. You're going out hunting people. Like that's what you're doing.
Right.
And so you're vile human beings. Like you're just like it's like a Kill Tony show all the time. And you are crushing people's souls. Like that is like your job is to sniff out the weakness in a team room and then turn the entire like pack on whatever is going to be the weakest thing. So if somebody says something and they show like a glimmer of weakness, the entire group will fold in on it and tear them apart. So it's like
a necessary evil almost, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to be, people talk about being tough or being resilient. It's just like a whole next level to put you guys in that situation. I mean, you have to be made of something special. You have to be resilient. You have to be, I don't know. I mean, very unique skill set.
It's like, somebody was like, that's thick skinned. And I was making a joke because my buddy, Omar, he's burnt over like 60% of his body or whatever. And I was calling him tough skinned instead of thick skinned. And we've made just like, I just got back from my buddy's funeral and I was with a bunch of guys that I served with. And we picked up instantly, like as if I hadn't left the team room, but 15 minutes ago, and this might have been 15 years ago. And instantly, like my buddy showed up in this like platinum 450 diesel And the first joke out of my mouth was like, how do you tell somebody with a micro penis? They got a fucking platinum 450. And he's like, and he doubled over laughing. You know, my other buddy is a general. He's a 1-star general. Wow. And I walked up and I grabbed his ass, like a big handful of his ass. And he turned around like he was mad initially because he was like, who in the hell has the audacity to do this? He turned around, he's like, oh man, that's awesome, you know? And it's the most fun because, and we talk about it all the time, and all the guys are in different work environments. You know, some work at fire, some work in, you know, police, some work in their own businesses or in the medical field. They're all gone. They're like, the thing we miss the most is like being in the team room, because it was
the brotherhood.
Like, no, you could be free. You could just say what you wanted to say. You could make the worst joke on the planet and people were like, that's awesome. Good one, you know? And people miss that.
You could be the biggest fuck, like on the weekend, be the biggest fuck up. Everybody's still going to love you.
Everybody.
Yeah. They're not going to be judging you for, oh, you got so drunk. You can't believe. It's just like, no.
They're actually telling you, like, why didn't you get more drunk? We don't understand. Well, you're still wearing your clothes? What are you? It's weak.
Well, so as everybody knows or could guess, that's probably the biggest transition back out of the military is how do you replace that? Because you have this brotherhood where, you know, you could rely on each other, obviously life and death. And most places aren't like that. You're at a job. Nobody there's going to die for you. I mean, probably maybe some, but generally no.
Generally no.
So how do you go from where there's basically no rules? You guys, you love each other, you're hard on each other, but you always have each other's back, to like now this is a regular set of society rules.
It's hard. You know, it takes a lot, and I think, you know, I think that's been a huge challenge for a lot of my peer group is they have a hard time finding where they're going to fit in with another culture that allows them to be them. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like, I hunt personally. Like, it's like I got away from it for years. You know, I was busy, and I came back to it about 6 years ago because I needed something else. I needed something that was hard. I needed a challenge. I needed to be able to, you know, take something and then pull it back onto my table. I needed something that I could go out and experience camaraderie and, you know, spend time out in the mountains with people I care about. And I think it's difficult. It's difficult for a lot of guys. I see it. I hear it. I hear it in their voice. I hear it in what they're talking about. And I think, you know, part of what I do is just like, look at what I do. Don't listen to what I say. Because like half the shit I say is ridiculous. But just like watch. You know, I started a business. I started a business with my friends from the former soft community because, like, I'm not meant for public consumption most of the time. Like, I can't go and work somewhere else. Like, I spent my entire life around a bunch of animals, like doing like horrible shit, saying horrible shit. Like, I got to just build my own thing because
you're not going to fit in somewhere else. Somebody
I'm not going to fit in.
Structure.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. So it's like I built my own thing. I didn't have any money. Yeah, like my dad was a logger.
Right.
Like, I didn't get a fucking check. Like, when I left the agency, it was like I had saved some money. I had a 450 square foot house in the mountains of Colorado, a Toyota Tacoma, and a condo that I'd bought in Seattle. But dude, I didn't come from money. I didn't have anything. I had a coffee roaster in my garage I'd been using recreationally, and I was like, my wife knew how to, you know, serve coffee. She had a coffee shop. I knew how to roast coffee, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. You know why? Because I can't work for anybody else. Got to do it. And I got to build a culture of people that also allows me to be me. Because I can't, you know, sew my mouth shut and do it's not possible for me.
Right.
And so it's like, just watch what I did and go, you know what? I can't conform to, you know, maybe I can't conform to the corporate culture. Cool. Go start a business. You know, I try really hard to just kind of emphasize actions speak louder than words. And one, I don't like the sound of my voice, so it's easier for me to like just do shit and figure it out, you know, and then start some hobbies that you're really passionate about, that you find really fulfilling, that you can build another team around, and plug in. You know, I think my biggest passions, you know, in my life are, you know, my kids, obviously, and I don't want to say obviously, because I know a lot of guys that their kids aren't their passion, but it's like, I'm super plugged in with them. I love it. They're awesome. They're super cool humans. And I find it's not my duty, right? Like a lot of fathers will say, like, you know, it's the greatest job I ever had. I'm like, dude, I don't look at it as a job. This is like the fucking coolest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. Like, I don't find any trepidation whatsoever in doing things with my kids. Like, I'm super plugged in. This is what I want to do. And I'm like, can be really selfish, be 100% consumed, and never feel guilty that I'm depriving something else. It's like one of the only things in my life that I feel like that. Everything else is like, if I go hunting, I'm like, man, I should be spending time with my kids, or I should be doing this. Like, I'm kind of divided, but my kids are epic. And so finding those things you're really passionate about, and I've been trying to push guys more towards like, just try a bunch of shit. You know, MacArthur, Eisenhower, Patton, all these guys were painters. Like, all of them painted. Like, you don't have to just like do what everybody else is doing. Like, do your own thing. Go learn the guitar. Go play the drums. Like, I don't know, but find your own thing. Right.
I mean, that's great advice, but you've had so much success. So you didn't have nobody wrote a check. You had a little coffee maker or coffee roaster, and now it's Black Rifle's like freaking iconic. So how did that happen? I mean, you say, watch what I do, not what I say, because you're unfiltered.
Yeah.
But how have you done that? Because, you know, I hear what you're saying, and find your passion. You know, that's hard.
It is.
It is. You know how many people are like, how'd you know that bow hunting was your passion?
Right.
People, it's so hard to say, oh yeah, I'm going to find my passion. What the fuck does that mean? You know what I mean? Other than your advice about trying things is good. I think hunting is a good one for people in the military, it seems like, because it's not similar, and, you know, but it's similar.
It is.
You got to be dedicated. You got to be, you know, all in essentially to be the best. So hunting seems like it's been a good one for a lot of guys. But yeah, it's like, how have you went from this to, I don't even know how many millions Black Rifle's worth, but it's incredible, the journey. How?
Well, I think number one, like, I kill fear. Like, fear is a cancer.
So if people said, no, this wouldn't work, or you can't do this,
fuck them.
Yeah.
Like, not only like when you have self-doubt, and part of this is like, you know, there's part luck, but most of it is just the fact that, one, I'm stubborn, and I'm 100% committed. Like, a lot of people, and, you know, this isn't me degrading people, but it's like, they don't have the ability to just endure. This is a grind, man. Like, you know, people look at it and they think, how lucky. And I'm like, I've never in my life thought about quitting anything I've done. Not one thing. I've never been close. I've never gone to selection and been like, I'm going to quit. Never been like that. I don't even have it in my DNA.
Right.
In the last 10 years of this business, it's the only time it's ever in my life like snuck into my head. I'm like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
It feels like you're just getting beat to shit on the ropes just day after day.
Just stuff that was out of your control is what you felt like, or circumstances? What's been
macro, micro, you know, it's like macro, micro economic conditions, you know, people misinterpreting what I say. And I say shit all the time. I've said shit in this podcast that can be like, well, you can take that snippet and post it somewhere, you know? And everybody doesn't have to agree with me. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm an opinion-based guy. I'm very binary. People either like me, they don't like me. I'm very black and white. But I've never in my life been a quitter. Like, but this 10 years, in the last 10 years, like, it pushed me to places physically and psychologically I'd never been before. You know, 4.5, 5 hours of sleep, if not less, every night. You know, not being able to pay your bills. Like, the first 2 years of this company were like, you know, I sold everything I owned. I didn't have anything left I could sell. You know, I had brand new kid, brand new wife at home, you know, rental house that I was missing payments on. You know, leveraged on my credit cards to the fucking hilt.
Yeah.
And that was easy. Man, whatever. I'll get it done. I'll figure it out. And then, you know, then you grow, you know, we have 900 employees now. And then you start, you know, we're publicly traded, and you start looking at, you know, stock price, and you start judging like whether or not I'm a good person or a bad person. And you start dealing with, you know, the board of directors, and these are all like really crazy complex challenges that you'll encounter when you're looking at, you know, we have $100 million in inventory. Bro, I could 10 years ago, I was having a hard time paying my rent.
Yeah.
Now I have that much in inventory.
Yeah.
But that's what you need, because that's what the forecast calls for. You know, we're in tens of thousands of convenience stores, and it's just it's a math problem. But man, I'll tell you,
yeah,
you can't have a queasy gut looking at $100 million worth of inventory going, hey man, you know, suck it up, Buttercup, it's time to go. And then when it's time to be profitable, which is like the next, you know, we were high growth, acceptable to lose a little bit of money because low interest rates, high growth. The economy changes. And now it's like, all right, now change your business.
Yeah.
And all these things have to be done, and you have to make them happen in a very finite amount of time. And this is why I keep talking to guys about, like, you know, health, right? It's like mental health, fitness. When you're grinding yourself into moon dust at like 4.5, 5 hours of sleep at night, you're rewriting your playbook. You're trying to figure out the problem. Dude, you can't go out on Friday night and have a couple beers. You just can't.
Right.
Because you know why? You're not cognitively functioning enough the next day to
make good decisions.
You can't.
Yeah.
So, and then grinding away, because I don't believe in that either, where it's like you find something you're what is that stupid saying? It's like a Pinterest saying. So find something you're passionate about. You never know work another day in your life. Or whatever. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's like find something you're passionate enough to grind away at for a decade.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And find something you're passionate about, that when things are fucking so difficult that you don't feel like you can take another step, that you'll be able to dig deep and grab onto that and pull it forward to take the next step.
Yeah.
That's what it means. It's not like, oh, I'm going to buy a camera and be a photographer and take pictures of the Eiffel Tower. Like, okay, well, if that means you can sell everything and live off dog food to take pictures, that might be enough to get you through, dude. Maybe.
Do you think that, to me, it seems like there's different types of, say, CEOs. There's CEOs who have come up like through the best schools and education and playing the whole game, right? And then there's guys like you who've just been regular guys who somehow through fate have, and now you say, you know, you're unfiltered, you're this or that. It's like you're not the typical CEO of a, again, I don't know, you got $100 million you're saying, but you haven't come up this standard route of these polished business guys. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, you're a small town guy, military guy, who now you have these new set of rules of you're a CEO of this publicly traded company. That has to be, I mean, yeah, you're built for it. You are, but I understand that. I mean, is there ever times where you're like, I just want out of this shit? And I know you have people relying on you, so you probably don't want to admit that, but.
No, of course. Like, of course.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Is it the fighter in you that's kept this or
it's duty?
Yeah. It's duty. Your obligation to the people.
It's also to my peer group. Like I took the company public. I didn't make hard, when I say it's like, I didn't make money doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, I pulled money to capitalize the company so we could grow the company. But more effectively, what I was just trying to make sure that from a duty and obligation perspective, that I could go out and inspire an entire generation of GWAT veterans to go start businesses. Yeah. That's it. And if I'm publicly available for people to just look at what I do and, you know, comb through, you know, my financial reports every quarter and look at, you know, how I've either succeeded or I've failed, at least that's the standard that people can know. In 10 years, I took a company that was in my garage with no outside capital. And I went to the New York Stock Exchange at the time. It was a $1.7 billion value in 9.5 years. Amazing. And I'm not the brightest bulb on the team, dude.
I don't know. Like, you got something special.
But my point in that is, like, there are smarter, better, more driven men than me in my generation of GWAT vets. And if I can do it, they can do it. And if I go and I hunt, you know, if I start shooting, like one of the reasons I started shooting archery was it was an active form of meditation. And I needed something to break out of like my spreadsheets and the things that I was doing from a, you know, numbers perspective. So I got a trad bow. I stuffed a bunch of burlap sacks together and I would shoot my trad bow in the back next to the coffee roaster. And I could just think about something else for 15 minutes, man. Just hit a target.
Yeah.
Right. And going back to what I said earlier, it's like, just look at what I'm doing. Don't necessarily listen to what I say. Because like I said, I'm more driven. I really like, I like numbers and I like math. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a master of the English language. And I really like management and leadership problems. I think they're really interesting. But I wouldn't say that I'm like awe-inspiring from that circumstance. It's dude, I did this. Like I lived paycheck to paycheck. I missed my rent payments. I sold all my shit. The difference is I sucked it up and I got through it in the sense of like, I pushed through the really fucking hard times. I didn't let self-doubt creep in. I took fear for a ride. Because it's scary. It scares the shit out of people, man. And that's why it's like, you got to have an iron gut. And you have to not only have an iron gut, but you have to look back at it and go, okay, let's get it on.
Yeah.
Well, I can do it.
It's been an incredible journey, and I do think that your makeup has made it the success it is. Because I think if you take somebody who maybe, you know, Princeton, Yale, whoever, they wouldn't have had the same fortitude you have to be able to push through all that for the last 10 years and go from. So I mean, you have this skill set. I mean, you say you're, you know, not the most well spoken or whatever, but whatever you have was a perfect storm. What's been, you know, you've talked about different challenges. Do you wish you could do things over again? Anything people could learn from? Have you just, sometimes you make good decisions, sometimes you don't, but whatever the case, you're going to figure it out. Is that how it's been?
Yeah. I try to get perspective on these things, which is when it's really like, when you're really in the pressure, when you're really in the, like, the confines of stress and pressure.
Like what? Like, give me an example.
Like taking the company public is a good example, and then post-public.
From the outside in, that seemed like a big celebration. You're there ringing the fucking bell on the New York Stock. I mean, how incredible is that?
It's awesome. My daughter did it, actually. My 6-year-old. She pressed the button, which can't wait for her to get to college and have some socialist professor. And she'd be like, I was there. I pushed the button. What? Jesus. You know, it was a big celebration. I think the economy flipped on its head right after. And
so you guys, everybody's buying stock, want to be involved. Everything was going great. What was it at $30 a share or something?
Yeah, and a lot of that was pressure on. There's just not what they call. There's not a lot of shares available, so it drove up the pressure. You know, and then.
So the pressure, does that drive up price then?
Yeah, because it's just
supply demand.
More buy. Yeah, supply and demand, and then the economy shifts. Interest rates go up. Growth stocks are no longer something that people are really spending a lot of time and money in. So then you really have to concentrate, and we're a young business. We have to really concentrate on how we're spending capital, where are we spending capital, where are we growing, where are the profitability in the channels. We've got to really hone our craft and start posting direct and deliverable results. And, you know, for the previous 10 years in the market, you just had this meteoric arc of these businesses. And a lot of them, to be fair, they weren't selling anything, right? We have a lot. We have substantive things. You know, we've got a largest coffee subscription in America. We've got, you know, a ready to drink that's across convenience stores. And I'm reluctant to keep going on because it'll sound like a commercial. But man, when you're staring at, you know, projected, you know, last year we did just over 300 million in gross annual. Well, dude, this was in my garage 9 years ago.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And you're looking at the inventory required to do what you're going to do this year, and my gosh,
yeah,
like talk about a mountain you got to climb. So, you know, you ring the bell, market gets flipped on its head, and now everything costs more. Now everything's just gotten way more challenging with a lot more insight and oversight. So as a private company, there's a lot of things you don't have to do, you know? Yeah. But I try to be grateful for the challenges in the sense of I get to be the guy, right? Like, how lucky am I, man? I get to be the guy that's like just gets the reward of just getting beat to shit by this stuff, because now other people can look at it and go, okay, like he did it, I can do it. And I'm not, the point of the entire exercise is to not, like, it's well beyond me. It's well beyond me at this point, which is to build, you know, my principles of this was to build an incredible business. And it was a circle. It was to go from a place of love, which is your family, to go into a business where you're loved, admired, and respected, and then you go back. And it's basically a flywheel of positivity in your life, where you build your ecosystem around people that love you, that encourage you, that support you, that propel you. And it gets faster and faster and faster. That flywheel effect of positive inertia powers your entire life and allows you to fill up every day around people that will create a direct, lasting, lifetime positive impact. And ultimately what it was for, and still is to prevent my friends from killing themselves. Like, that's straight point blank.
So it's that bigger than you mission is what helps you weather the storms that come with this, this business and going public, and every word you say is being critiqued because it's, yeah, I'll deal with this so I can help these people. Is that your attitude? It's
not me, man. Like, I don't take this stuff personal. This is my duty. It's just like standing guard or sitting in a patrol base or going out on patrol or doing anything else. This is my duty. Like, I don't have a choice. So it is what it is. And I have not only the duty, but I have the opportunity to be the guy. Fucking cool.
That is, everybody wants to be in your position. They might not, they want to be the CEO of something successful and to have a greater cause than themselves, just like you do. But everything you've had to overcome, you said yourself you're not a quitter, and you haven't quit. You've proven that, and throughout life, and then through the military, and now through this. And it's, to me, shit, it's inspiring. It's to hear you talk so honestly about, yeah, you might not say the right things all the time. You might not do the right things, but this is why I'm doing it, and I'm okay with it. It's, that's standing for something. And I agree. That's what we all should do. You had to earn your position right now.
Yeah. And that's what, like, I see it. I see it in other people. I see other people doing, inspiring people, and we all catch a certain amount of shit, right? We all catch a little bit of hate. I mean, I see it. Like, I see it on me, and, and I've said this to lots of other people where I'm like, man, people putting positivity in the world is awesome. It's inspiring people to be better. And there's always going to be negative information, negative people. And what they're doing is they're putting toxic fuel out into the world. I'm not doing that. I don't broker in that bullshit. I'm only in the game of putting fucking positive fuel back in the world. I'm not going to put toxic fuel back in there. I'm not going to. There's too much of it. Guys like, guys like you, guys like Joe, guys like, Goggins, Jocko, and all these guys, you guys are putting positive fuel in the tanks of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people every day. And man, we need an army of people like that. We need an army of people that are willing to go out, be in the public eye, and just accept it for what it is. And just go, you know what? I'm putting positive fuel in the world, and I don't really give a shit what other people are going to say. Like, I don't. Like I've heard it, and I don't know. I think probably last year, I turned the corner with it. It's like, whatever. It's my duty. It is what it is, man. Like, it's my duty, and I'm just going to keep doing what I do. Like, and if people don't like it, I don't know, find another coffee to drink. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. It's, no, I don't know. What a journey. I just can't even imagine. I mean, but it's been incredible to watch. And as I said, inspiring for me to see this growth and success. And yeah, I know there's been challenges. I've seen some of the stuff people have said and critiqued, and, anytime, especially once you go public, fuck everything. There's a magnifying glass under every decision and every word you say.
Everything.
And that would be challenging. Who's been like a good resource for you? I assume you haven't just navigated this all yourself. Has anybody helped you on how to deal with it?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's all new. I didn't really know anyone from that had been in a public company before. And I think, my partners, Matt and Jared have been really good. Like, they've been exceptional partners. Like, I talk to them every day for the most part. Like Matt, Jared, Logan, like we've all kind of formed a fire team, for lack of a better term. And then I've got some people on the board that have been really good. They've been really, really instrumental. And then outside of that, I think stoicism, as far as like a meditation or a practice, I think that's helped quite a bit. I think listening to or reading different books and looking at different perspectives, whether it's, Shoe Dog or one of these guys like Phil, I'm bringing him up because of Eugene, but reading other entrepreneurial adventures, you know, their success stories, their failures. It also shows me like there's a lot of other people who have gone through the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like rinse, wash, repeat, you know? And now I'm getting better at it to the point where I can see the stuff beforehand and go, oh yeah, I've seen that, you know? So I've relied quite a bit on different people. And I think a lot of it's just finding perspective, which is, my life's pretty awesome, man. Like we kind of like talked about the negatives, but I'm like, dude, I have 900 employees. You know? Like, you know, I go into the office and there are people that have worked for me for, you know, 9-10 years. There are people who have worked for me for 2 weeks. You know, I've got, you know, elk heads hanging around. I've got, you know, a gym in back. I make what I feel is the best coffee in America every day. Like, you know, I get to, you know, work with all these different cool partners doing amazing things. I'm like, dude, how incredible is this?
Could be worse.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome, man. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So part of it is just, I get to do this. I mean,
yeah.
To your point, like, there's a bunch of people that would love to have CEO in their title and would love to have, you know, 33 coffee shops and, like, you know, go and do all this stuff. So part of it is like paying respect to where I am and doing it, going like, this is pretty epic.
Yeah.
It's not only pretty epic, it's fucking epic. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I see that, and I agree. I mean, so you've been blessed so much, but I was just curious about the whole journey, because you can just focus on one or the other. You can focus on the negative and be like, what the fuck, I got to deal with this, all this shit. Or you can be on, you know, on the other hand, like how blessed you've been. But the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. But it's like, I think your perspective and just having that, just the big picture is, you know, that's where a lot of people, me, anybody, you focus on this one little aspect of it instead of the big picture. But the big pixture is, you got 900 people that are supporting their families because they work for you. I mean, that's an impact.
Dude, we gave back $3.5 million last year. $3.5 million.
To who?
To nonprofit, veteran nonprofits.
Okay.
$3.5 million. Like, you know, Patagonia always says like 1% of sales, right? Or 1% of profit. Well, just so everybody knows, you can pretty much make whatever profit you want to look like. You can say, we made $10, 1% goes back. Dude, we did more, we pushed back more because we did more than 1% on top line, gross revenue. Patagonia goes to war every day, and they're, you know, with their information saying 1% goes back to conservation. Dude, I did more than that. Top line. Yeah. Back to veteran nonprofits. We've single-handedly been able to fund specific initiatives. And, you know, it's amazing, man. Like, I've been able to pay for, you know, an entire continuing education program for private elementary school kids for the children of guys that have been lost in combat. Like, I've been able to pay for, you know, college and research around burn pits and things like this. Like, dude, this is crazy. Like, $3.5 million. I'm going to give more back next year.
It's making an impact,
dude. It's awesome. Like, you know, and not to mention, you know, all the other really cool shit that just happens all the time. You know, like, I went hunting with Rogan for a week. Like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is crazy, man. Like,
yeah, he loves that hunt with you down there at Tejon.
Dude, it's awesome. Yeah. It's like I went hunting with Steve Ranella for a week in Alaska. Like,
when was that?
2 years ago.
What did you guys hunt?
Blacktail.
Oh, really?
Dude.
On Prince of Wales, or?
Yeah. It was such a cool hunt. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was like,
what, the weather?
Steve is, you know, have you hunted with him?
I haven't.
He has like a knack for just going in the worst paths ever and just likes to keep grinding. And
wants to be miserable.
Dude, he just wants to be miserable, I think. And we're out there for a week and it's just raining and sleeting and snowing, and We didn't see shit.
Really?
We didn't see anything until the last day.
Joe went with him on that hunt too, and he didn't kill anything. So I don't know if that's he enjoys, or
I think he takes people out to her just to like grind them up,
test them.
Yeah, like we did this portage with his canoe, and we're cruising through, and it's like a jungle. It's basically like a jungle.
Yeah,
we're like doing this
country
3-mile portage through nasty jungle with a canoe and backpacks and all this other crazy shit, and it just to go up and put it in the lake and row it across the lake, and then do quite a bit of calling and cruise around, and then come back and do it. And then we were like, well, let's take it down the rapids. Like, this dude's crazy a little bit, and then we went from there, and then went out to pull in some shrimping pots, and he's got this tiny little boat, and we're out in the fucking ocean. Yeah. And I'm just like, he's got like a half screw loose, like because he's so polite and like very professional, and he's calm, but man, he can get it done. Like he's a super legit guy. But growing up, or not growing up, watching Meat Eater and watching Steve and you and all these guys on Joe's podcast and following you guys for years, it's just cool, man. It's like you get to meet people that you like look up to and you respect, and you're like, that guy's fucking doing it. Like, watching your videos with how close you're getting to bulls, and like how of a surreal interaction that you have with these wild animals. Like, dude, packing shit out and running, fucking 100 miles or whatever you're doing. Like, dude, this is epic. Like, what you're doing is epic. You're doing things that are inspiring guys like me all the time. And so we're looking at you going, man, Cam Hanes is a hard motherfucker. Like, I can do that. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try harder. I'm gonna work harder.
Well, you've been kicking ass, killing bulls with your bow. I know that. Been on a pretty good run. I mean, this year you got a great bull.
Yeah. He's cool. He's a cool bull.
Yeah. So what'd you and Steve? You said you killed on the last day.
Last day, and I killed a blacktail. Like we did. I don't know. We put in like 80 miles around there, dude. Just 80 miles, just like tromping through the. We did like a full, like semi multi-pitch climb in like muck boots.
Did they have ropes? No. Going up there? Because I know there's some places like they do have ropes.
Yeah, I know. We were just doing a climb. I fell like 10 feet under my backpack. I thought I broke my back, and I just landed in like this nice soft area. I fell like 10 feet off this thing. Like, we were climbing in muck boots.
Sounds like it.
And last day we killed this thing like 800 yards from where we were staying, in Steve's cabin. And we were like walking all around. It was just by chance we were walking this power line road, just hoping, like keeping our fingers crossed, like, gosh, I hope we get something. I hope we see something. Dude, we had been working so hard, and we ran into, a couple does, but nothing. And the only one we saw, and it was like maybe 600 yards from the fishing cabin. Yeah. And it was like on our way back in. So lucky.
Got him killed.
Yeah.
What's been your best hunting adventure?
That brown bear hunt with Cole was probably, 2 weeks. And Cole's super fun.
Yeah. So
he's such a good dude.
Cole Kramer, who we just had on the podcast, he's a longtime guide. So was that on Kodiak?
No, it was in the peninsula. Yeah. It was Chicknick, right outside of there. And it was, because you go out into the field, and your commercial flight, then a little bit bigger plane down to gravel, and then Super Cub out,
smaller plane,
and then you keep getting down, right to your system of entry. And it's just beautiful.
2 weeks you were there?
Yeah.
That's a long hunt.
It's awesome.
Yeah. How many guys were hunting?
It was me, Matt and Logan. So we had 3 bear tags. And Cole had, it was him and his assistant guide, and then Trevor Thompson, who's a former SEAL that is a former guide, or works as a guide with Cole too. So we're all up there, and so Cole's got 2 weeks and 3 tags to get it done.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it, man. He did it.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it.
It's a lot of work,
crazy.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even those hides are heavy. Did you pack? You guys have to pack the hides out?
Yeah, well, I think it was on day 10. We'd seen a bunch of bears, but nothing with any size. You know, some sows and nothing with any size. And we were getting ready to come off the mountain one night, and we saw one that was like 4.5 Ks away, and it was big because, you know, one, the rangefinder wasn't really working that far out, but he looked big.
Yeah.
And he's in kind of a green field out between 2 mountains. And I spotted him. You know, Cole confirmed it's big bear. We'll get up in the morning. If he's still here, we'll hit the road. We'll figure out how to get out there. And so got up in the morning, still there. So we've got, you know, 4.5 Ks to move on Big Boy.
Yeah.
Through that.
It's tough walking.
It's good, yeah. And we're moving, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know, because we're trying to get up on him as fast as we can. We just don't have the time. So we're moving as fast as we can. And so you're at VO2 max like the entire time.
Redlining.
And yeah, you're redlining, you're stripping clothes off, you're
sweating your ass off.
Sweating your ass off.
Yeah.
And then you get down, you know, into below. Now you can't see him. So you're trying to get as close as you can. Finally, we get up on this little knob, and Cole starts calling, and he
like
comes.
A predator call?
Yeah, he was doing like cow, like, you know, cow moose and
calf.
Like, yeah, calf calls and stuff. So he starts calling and bringing him in, and he's big. He comes in and is like, "That's the first." To the call? He did.
Nice.
Yeah, and there you can have backup shooters. So I sat up and I was like, "Hey, as soon as I shoot, like, you guys got to shoot right on top," because I was like, "We got to get this thing down."
Yeah,
and I don't want any.
No funny business.
No funny business. Let's get this thing down.
Yeah.
And so we set up on him. So we, you know, I killed that first bear. Well, then we turned around, and there's another bear right behind us. Cole's like, "Turn around. There's another bear right behind you."
Oh, man.
And he, you know, made a small cow call, and that was Matt's bear.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Matt, go."
Yeah.
So Matt turned around and shot him. So we had 2 bears on the ground. We'd been out there for 10 days. And then we had 2 bears on the ground in like 30 seconds. And
quite a ways from camp.
Yeah, 5 Ks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We ended up, you know, getting the hides and then packing them out. But we got to a spot about a K away where we could bring in the cub and load all that stuff up in the cub. So we only had, you know, we ended up getting back probably midnight-ish, you know. Like, but we had a couple of stream crossings and, you know, a lot of walking basically to get back. And Logan killed a wolf, which is like, he's a sniper. And it's funny because he shot him in the face and we just kept making fun of him. Like, the old habits, they die hard, huh? Like, geez, man, like, take it easy.
Yeah, target eliminated there.
Yeah. And then Matt and I left 2 days after. 2 days after that, I think. Logan stayed for another 2 or 3. I think he might have been there for another 3 days past where we were at. I was getting along on my days. I was like, I gotta get back.
Yeah.
And
it's a long hunt.
Dude, it's a long hunt. So much fun.
And it's a couple days to get out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a while to get there and to get back.
Yeah, because by the time you get into Anchorage and then spend the night in Anchorage and then get back, you know, Salt Lake, and then it's going to take me a few days to like decompress before I'm like, I'm not going to just step back into the office, you know, day 2. So it's a long hunt. I want to do this next fall. My goal is to take all of September. I just take all of September. It's like
hunt what?
Elk all September.
Yeah, there you go. Now we're talking.
Yeah, just be gone, dude. I'm building this expedition vehicle right now. It's just like a flatbed, custom flatbed F-350 with a plug-in camper. Gosh, what's it called? Like I think it's called four-wheeler camper, but it's like, it's all basically custom and built out. So I can just go from like start in one state and just go from state to state to state. Beautiful. And never unpack.
To me, that, like, when I was growing up, there was this guy here in town. His name is Jim Carter. He's an electrician. But anyway, he hunted all of September, right? And he always killed, for Oregon, always killed a nice 6-point bull. And I was just like, how the fuck does this guy do this every year? So I was like, my whole dream, my whole life was, I want to be able to hunt all of September, just to your point right there. And then it's just like, then you keep working, getting opportunities, things work out. And so, yeah, now that's what I do. 4 states. Last year was 5 states.
5 states.
But this year, 4 states. And it's just like, it's just what I've always dreamed of. Elk hunting all September. It's like, could life get any better?
Well, you just retired. You had a job this entire time, dude.
Yeah. I retired a year ago.
Like, so this is your first year that you've had no shit, a real September you could take off, right?
And normally it would be kind of like your situation where, if I killed early, I'd have to get back to work because, you know, I'm running the cruise. And, you know, I was involved with purchasing. And so everything, there's always issues that come up. So I'd have to, as soon as I got done, I'd have to go back. But this year, I mean, it was, I had my podcast done before. So there's still always, you always put pressure on yourself.
Right.
It's like people like us probably always have feel a certain amount of pressure just because there are other goals or whatever. But yeah, it was really nice. I didn't have to hustle to get anywhere, just to the next hunt.
Did you come back to your house before each hunt, or did you like stay on the road? Were you gone and then gone?
Let me think. So I think I came back between each hunt. So I killed and did I, Tanner? Or did we go from one to the other ever?
Arizona to Oregon.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, so in Oregon, I ended up going. I had to try Oregon twice. Couldn't get it done the first time. I had to go to Arizona because that's when my hunt started, and then had like 3 days after Arizona to get it done here in Oregon because I didn't the first time, and then killed a bull last day of September here.
Okay.
So,
last day
of September. It was. Yeah, Oregon was Oregon is always my hardest one because you've hunted in Utah. It's a great place. Lots of bulls. You're probably going to get an opportunity. Arizona is incredible. Colorado, where I hunt, is good. Oregon, it's just freaking hard. Roosevelt out country. It's always the hardest one of the year. So anytime I can get a bull killed in Oregon, and it's usually my first one, I'm like, all right, all the next ones are going to be easy compared to this. So this one, it was my last bull. It was just kind of kicked my ass. But.
What's the difference between? Is there any difference between the behavior of the Roosevelt and the Rocky Mountain? And the Thule?
Yeah, I haven't hunted Thule. I haven't done those. But the Roosevelt, they don't bugle quite as much, or you don't hear them as much. And I don't know if it's because of the terrain, because the timber and the hills and absorbed sound. Unlike you get over into Eastern Oregon or in the desert where we hunt, where the air is crisp, clear. Mountains, sound carries in the mountains. It doesn't carry here on the coast like it does there. So I think they bugle less, but also think you hear it less, just because of the country. Right. But we've had them fired up, bulls coming in, but it's pretty rare that a Roosevelt comes charging in just bugling like you see some other places.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Are they bigger? Are they smaller body or bigger body?
Bigger body.
Bigger body.
Bigger body. So like a big bull, like say in Utah, Colorado, would be like 800 to 900 pounds.
Yeah.
Would be a giant bull.
Yeah.
That bull that we were looking at there, that bull weighed 1,200 pounds.
Seriously?
Giant. biggest bodied elk I've ever seen.
What do they eat? Like fish?
No. Yeah.
What are they eating?
Like brown bear, a bunch of leaves, I guess. I don't know. They like blackberries. So I mean, they hit the berries hard when the berries are on.
Their glycogen's through the roof. They're like packing on the weight.
I have no idea because normally a human, if you want to put on muscle, you got to eat some protein.
Yeah,
they're not eating protein. Oh, actually, you know what? This year, acorns.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So there was a shitload of acorns that the elk were just all over. So that'd be a good way to put on weight if they're eating a bunch of nuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But those bulls, they're the biggest body. Roosevelt, there's a lot of 1,000-pound Roosevelt bulls, but that one was 1,200. He was huge.
Can you taste a difference between your Colorado and your Roosevelt? Like, can you taste the difference, or is it?
Here's how it goes. Of all the bulls, or the bulls I've killed, Arizona, for whatever reason, is the best eating.
Huh.
I mean, I can tell if my wife cooks up a steak or something, I can tell, is this Arizona? Because it just tastes that good.
Right.
Second is Oregon. Oregon is so good. But yeah, I can tell. And then Utah and Colorado are below those. But still good meat, but something about the Arizona bulls, and I don't know why, and then Oregon is right there.
Yeah, because especially if they're eating a bunch of blackberries. Be like, man, okay.
Yeah. And I like to kill bear too that are eating berries. Obviously, those are good. I killed a bear in Colorado that was on acorns, and that meat's good also. Really? But not quite as good as if they're just eating berries. Obviously, that's sweet. Yeah. Gives a little different flavor. I mean, bear meat's not obviously elk meat, but I still like it.
Do you do a bear hunt every year? Mm-hmm. Like every year, 100%?
Yeah, I always kill either, I've killed brown bear or grizzly or black bear in Alberta with the rivets. I go up there. Usually that's nice. That's usually like my first hunt if we don't do Lanai. Joe and I have done Lanai a number of times. But I like a bear hunt just to get, let's get in the killing mode. We haven't killed all winter. Let's make sure we remember how to do this. And so the bear is a good one. You go up there, kind of focus on a big male. That's always a good hunt. But yeah, and then I usually always kill one in Colorado too because there's so many bear there.
Right. Where at? Is it southern, northern?
Trinidad.
Oh yeah.
Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
So it's down not too far from New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how far from where you're hunting, but
a couple hours.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not too far actually. It might even be less than that.
Because the same place you're hunting, they have a spot by where I hunt.
Yeah, they what are they calling it? Wedding cake or something like that is what they. Because the same owner owns all of that stuff. He's an interesting cat. How many brown bears have you
killed? 3 brown bear.
3 brown bears. Mm-hmm. Like when we're at Kodiak?
No, in the Alaska range.
Okay.
So where Roy used to hunt, so we did snow machines for one. I killed one up high coming out of the den. Mm-hmm. So they'll come out. They'll den up like on kind of steep mountains up there, and they come out in the spring and then kill them up there, and they'll come down and try to kill a moose or something. So the bear I killed, my first brown bear, I think it was 2012, had just killed a moose, got on his tracks and killed him. And then I killed 2 in 2015. That's one of them right there, that skull.
Oh, yeah.
And that was down kind of where the peninsula takes off. There's a bay right there off.
Right.
And it's that unit 16. A non-resident can kill 2 brown bear and 3 black bear. There's so many bear there. And I killed 2 brown bear.
Seriously?
1 spawn stock, 1 bait.
Do you ever use rifle anymore?
Mm-mm.
No. All archery?
Yep.
You used to use rifle every now and again, right? Or have you always been pure?
Once I switched, I started with the rifle when I was 15. That was my first kill.
Right.
And then in 1989, I switched to bow, and it's just been bow ever since. Yeah.
What's been your best hunt? Like you've done a million of them. Like, what are the ones that stick out that are like, that was epic?
I mean, I like dangerous game. I just like the intensity of it, you know, so the big bear or the Cape buffalo in Tanzania, or I was hunting lion in Tanzania. I didn't end up killing one, but I was, you know, on the ground had one at 50 yards, a big male by itself.
Wow.
That was pretty exciting. I just could never get a good shot on it. I like that. And then aside from the dangerous stuff, is always hunting with Roy would be, you know, we'd always have big adventures up there. So it was cool. Our last year hunting, you know, he fell in 2015, but we killed these 2 brown bear and I killed a black bear on that hunt too. So I killed 3 bear in 5 days.
Wow.
And then we killed that moose there. That was our last hunt together, that moose back there.
Oh, right here?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, so that was, he fell 2 weeks after I killed that. So that obviously is a special one.
Right.
Yeah. But, and then elk, I mean, other than dangerous, it's like you can't beat, obviously, you know, I like elk just from looking around.
It's delicious. It's super fun.
Well, to me, a small town guy, just like you, it's like deer were, everybody kind of got their buck, you know, did you get your buck this year? But to get a 6-point bull,
that was it. Like everybody talked about that guy. Like everybody in the town talked about that guy.
And that was like, if you would have a belt buckle and it'd have a 6-point bull silhouette on it. And it's just like, or some guys had antler horn belt buckle.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the base of it.
I had one.
Did you?
Yeah, my uncle made it for me.
But to kill a big bull, a 6-point bull.
Yeah.
Shit, dude, hardly anybody ever did. It's like you never even hardly saw elk.
No.
So it was, if you could get a big bull, that meant something. And, you know, I have the spike here somewhere. I killed my first bull was a spike. And then finally, you know, by the time I killed a 6-point, a big 6-point, well, for me was that one right there. That was in the Eagle Cap Wilderness. And that was my 8th year of bow hunting, my first 6x6.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. I killed bulls every year.
Right.
That was the first. I killed a 6x5 Roosevelt, but then that was my first 6x6. Wow. And that was like, oh shit, okay, finally did it. Seemed impossible.
That must have been like crossing the finish line on a huge race or something. Like you must have been over the moon.
Yeah, I mean, it was, by myself back there, 43 yards, hit him. I was sneaking down, had spotted him. Went into this thing, he bedded down, I thought, because he didn't come out. He had a herd, snuck down there, and I was like pretty close. I knew I was looking, and I heard an elk get up. I heard its like rocks move and like hooves. And I looked, and I could look under this thing, and I could range, and it was him at 43. And I hit a little back, but I got his liver. And then he went not far and bedded. Then I heard his antlers hitting the rocks. And I'm like, oh my God, I just killed a big bull. And I went over there and he was dead, and that was never forget it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's like 8 years.
8 years of bow hunting.
8 years of bow hunting.
And I could only hunt, I didn't have any money then, so I just only hunt Oregon.
Yeah.
So it was like if I didn't kill a bull in Oregon, I wasn't killing a bull.
Right.
And when you're so obsessed with something, to not get a bull was like, I couldn't, you know, I was so obsessed. It just, I had to kill a bull, and I did, but it was just like not so obsessed, probably unhealthy. So, but that was, all my chips were in Oregon, and Oregon's not a great hunting state.
Right.
But yeah.
Why isn't it not a good hunting state?
I think, well, I don't know. I don't know if habitat doesn't allow bulls to get giant, but Oregon just in general has been a state managed for opportunity. Like if you want to hunt elk, you could always buy an elk tag over the counter. Some states, they limit those opportunities and let the bulls get older.
Right.
When they get older, they get bigger. So on one hand, I was thankful that Oregon managed this opportunity. So if you wanted to elk hunt, you could always elk hunt, but you're probably not going to kill an old bull because a lot of people were killing, you know, young bulls before they had a chance to mature. Whereas like Arizona, maybe they only draw a tag every 20 years. The bulls will be older.
Gotcha.
But, so it's on one hand, I'm thankful to be here because I got a lot of elk hunting experience. I didn't kill anything giant. That was a giant for me. But
that's awesome bull.
Yeah.
Like it's a good bull.
Good wilderness bull. I thought it was huge. But yeah.
How far back in were you? Like
12 miles. 12 miles. Yeah. It's a long way. So you're by yourself,
get this bull in the ground, and now you're like,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, luckily I had 3 other guys that were about 10 miles away around this big basin. They were hunting this other ridge, and we kind of all came in together. We had llamas that packed all our stuff.
Oh, cool.
I had went in, me and Roy bought llamas together. Then my buddy Tim had them up at his place. So llamas would help carry the stuff in. So they had a big base camp over there. Then I said, all right, I'll see you guys in a week.
Right.
And I went to this other drainage that I like to hunt. It's just so hard to get to, no horse trails or anything like that. But that's where I like to go, because I always thought that, okay, it's 12 miles back, but then also this is even harder to get to this far back.
Right.
And so I killed that bull, got him hung up, taken care of, and hiked all the way back. And I found the guys and I said, hey, could you guys, the llamas, they get tired. So they can't, if you put a bunch of weight on them and go 12 miles the next day, they're only 300-pound animals. So they're tired. They'll lay down. They won't pack.
They'll just lay down.
They'll just lay down. And it's like it wouldn't matter what you did. They're done. Right. And so I said, could we all pack this bull out? I'll get us a hotel room. We'll buy pizza and then pack back in. Said, oh, yeah, no problem. So they come over there and it was an ass kicker to get this 12 miles. And then I had the pack trail went 12 miles, but I thought, well, look at the map, topo maps. There was no Onyx.
You're using like 1 over 24,000, like USGS topo maps or something. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. And so I said, if we go here and we just drop straight off, the river's right there. It's only 2 miles. Once we get to this edge, so it's probably like 6 miles total. But I said, it's only 2 miles from the edge to the bottom. Let's just go there. And obviously there's a reason why the trail doesn't go there, right? It was so freaking steep and nasty. And we went down there and it's like, the biggest mistake ever. But we ended up getting this bull out, then came back in, and the buddy who I was with, he still works over where I had just retired. He's a director now. But he was so, I don't know if he was beat up or just like couldn't imagine if we killed another one and had to do that. We got all the way back in there and he goes, yeah, I'm ready to go. So I said, you don't want to hunt? He's just like, nah, I'm good. So the other guys stayed and hunted, but I think they were so beat up, they didn't kill anything. But just that one pack out just pretty much ruined all of us. It was freaking hard. It was hard. So anyway, that was the story on that bull.
Wait, what kind of weight does a llama? How much can you load up on that?
We'd put 60 pounds would be pretty heavy. Okay. But we had 4, so that's 240 pounds a year.
Okay,
that's not on your back.
Yeah,
so that helps.
Yeah.
And the first bull I killed back there in '94, I killed a spike, and we packed it out with the llamas. Me and Roy did.
Right.
So that one worked. So they're good. I mean, they won't. A horse can step on your foot, kick you in the head, do all this stuff. A llama can't really hurt you, so they're good. They're just not quite as hardy as a horse you can put on 150 pounds and they're fine. So a llama has its limitations, but it allowed us to get camp back there for 10 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, do you still use pack animals at all? Do you still? You don't have the llamas anymore.
I don't. No. It just depends on the hunt. I mean, I've had hunts where we'll pack in with horses.
Right.
Or if you kill something, then you have horses available.
Right.
Even where I hunt in Colorado, there's places where we've used horses to pack out the bulls that I've killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to think about the pack goats and llamas and things like that, because I really enjoy thinking about long range logistic support for like high adventure stuff. So yeah. I have another company, which is Idaho River Adventures, with a partner of mine. We do Middle Fork of the Salmon, which is in the Frank Church Wilderness, which is the most remote wilderness area in the lower 48. And I want to take this like epic trip through there, because it's like iconic piece of American.
Yeah.
Like, but I want to be able to like pack in, pack out with like goats or llamas or something. I'm not a huge horse fan. Like I like horses, like in general, like to pet them and feed them carrots and stuff. Once I get on their back, I'm like, man, I don't know. This machine's going to do whatever it wants to do at the end of the day. Like I get a little bit like, well, I'd rather just walk, you know?
And they can feel that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can feel if they're in control or you're in control. And some horses take advantage of it. So it's like you have any trepidation and you're on a horse, they know. That's why if some people, if they don't have control of their horse, it's just like... That horse isn't going to do anything for you.
Well, I always feel like I need to have a gun out, like pointed at their head. Like this is like a hostage situation, you know, like, hey man, you're going to do what I ask you to do. But I don't feel like that's ethical enough. Yeah. You know, I'm like, I'll just walk. I'm good.
Horses, you know, the Frank Church is legendary country also, but so is the Thoroughfare in Wyoming.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of it.
Thoroughfare, that's the largest. I don't know about who's the remote, but it's right. They say, I think I've read that it's the largest, maybe Frank Church is most remote. I don't know. But anyway, they're both huge pieces of country, right? So I killed a bull in the Thoroughfare, and it was a 28-mile horseback ride in. Oh. 28 miles. My ass was disintegrated. But...
28 miles.
Yeah.
Horsepack in before you start hunting.
Then you start hunting.
Okay.
And then there's wolves and grizzlies and everything in there. So the bulls were really quiet. I mean, they got used to if they bugle, the wolves will come, right? So they were quiet, but I killed a big 6x6. It was, I think they'd been hunting, that camp had been hunting for 5 years and they never had a bow kill. So killed this, had to make this long shot on this big bull. And also where they hunt there is like on the line of the Yellowstone Park. Right. And if you hit a bull and it goes over the line into the park, you can't go get it. So it was like, I was about, I would say 3/4 of a mile above the park line, but it's like that was weighing on me because you make a poor shot on a bull, it can easily go. Yeah. And then, you know, it's wasted because you can't go get it. But luckily made a good shot. But anyway, the bull only went 40 yards and piled up, and it was a big wilderness 6x6. But that was 10 miles from the camp that we were at, and that was 28 miles in. So it was super remote. But
I got to check that out. Thoroughfare.
The Thoroughfare.
Wait, so, okay, I'm just trying to put it into perspective to where Yellowstone is and then how. Cause
we went through Cody, then off the South Fork, you cross the South Fork to get up in there. Okay. Yeah.
Have you done Bob Marshall?
I haven't. Oh. No, that's another historic one and famous. I love those big, wild, I mean,
it's my favorite.
Yeah, that's what the Eagle Cap is. It's Oregon's largest. It's 356,000 acres, so it's 30 miles by 60 miles. And to me, that was such a big allure to get. Me and Roy looked at the map and we were like, okay, where's the furthest from anywhere? It's like right there. Yeah, and that's where we just wanted to get as far away from anybody as we could. So for Oregon, that was it. But when you talk Frank Church or Thoroughfare or maybe Bob Marshall, wild country, which who knows what's going to happen. That's what's so great about it.
And nobody sees it, man. Like, I did the same thing when I was in Idaho a lot. I'd pull out the maps and then look at, you know, there's lots of different areas. Like I grew up in the Clearwater National Forest, which is on the north side of the Clearwater River. But then you have the Frank Church, which is just south, and you've got Locksaw and the Clearwater. You've got all these like really iconically cool places. And I'd always try to figure out like, okay, where's the most remote place? Right. And I did this trip one year. I did a 100-mile trip where I was just fly fishing through from Atlanta to Stanley, Idaho. But it's like 100-mile lake to lake to lake, you know, and just fly fish my way through. And I had such a great time. Like it was like nobody out there, nobody's on the trail. Like once you're back there, nobody is out there. Right. Like all the looky-loo vacationer, like Gorp crowd, they're not out there. And by the way, use a trail, you don't use a trail, you just kind of like look at your map and figure it out. Like, it's interesting that people, it's actually a positive here, which is once you get 5 miles in, there's not a lot of people back there.
No.
It's awesome.
And that's what people talk about, being overcrowded and they're running into hunters all the time. I still know where I killed that bull. I know a guide who guides back in there because they have sheep hunts back in there.
Right.
And he says, send me pictures of giant bulls. And he's like, could you come back here and kill? There's nobody back. I said, nobody's back there. He's like, yeah, nobody's at the trailhead. You know, a 350 bull running around.
No.
But you talk about, everybody talks about, oh, it's overcrowded. There's too many bow hunters. And, you know, these guys ruined it. These guys ruined it. Now they're hunting, you know, the best places that I'm to deal with it. It's like, I don't know. There's still some pretty good hunting way back that people don't want to work for.
They don't want to work for it. And now I've seen more impact in Idaho from wolves than we ever did from archery or increased hunters. Like, I mean, they decimated the elk population in Idaho. Like, some estimates, I think they cut it down by 70%.
Yeah.
So, like, sure, you could say that it's an increased population of hunters, but ultimately some of these states have continued to increase their wolf population, and they've eliminated huge percentages of their population of elk. And oh, by the way, they're also not getting
the resource from it. Yeah. And Colorado's doing that now too.
Dude, now, California is doing it.
Wolves?
Yeah. We saw them. They're in just outside of Burbank. There's a conservation area just next to Tejon, and there's one of the guys has a video of a black wolf out in the middle of nowhere, and we're like, guys, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think it's a good idea.
I know, because the hunting money from tags and licenses pays for most conservation and habitat restoration, and like they need the hunters' money.
Yeah.
And now you're letting wolves do the killing, so you're going to cut back the resource from the hunters. It's like, what kind of plan is that?
I don't think they have a plan. I think they have a very emotional, you know, they've got a very emotional and I would say somewhat illogical perspective when it comes to, you know, reintroduction of non-native predators, because that's really what it is. You know, even the wolves that we reintroduced in Idaho, they're non-native to Idaho. They're a different type of wolf.
Right.
So they're not, I don't think they're thinking about the long-term effects. I think what they're thinking about is like, these are beautiful house dogs, and you know, they're just like, you know, Biscuit in my backyard, but they're just more beautiful and mystique, you know, the mystery of them. And I think there's also a slight bent in anti-gun to this. I think reintroduction to predators, the increased population of cougars, the increased population of wolves. I think there's a certain section that are saying, well, if there's no more game, and if the predators are doing most of the hunting, then why do you guys need guns? Yeah, I think there's a section of that too.
I think that is a goal of some people. Yeah, it's just to eliminate the need for hunters. So yeah, I mean, if we don't, you know, come together on this, and you know, hunters love bickering back and forth, and you know, there's egos involved, and so a lot of jealousy and things like that makes it a challenge to work together sometimes. But man, we better figure it out.
That's an interesting point, because I see it in the hunting community. I see it in the gun community. I see it in a lot of these things where I'm like, guys, we got bigger fish to fry than figuring out this thing over here. Like, I mean, you feel it, I feel it, I think everybody feels it. Like, the anti-hunting community is growing, and they're becoming even more vocal. I mean, they want to shut down, you know, our hunting and archery programs and education and schools. They want to shut us down. And if we don't kind of, to your point, get our shit together, like,
and I get it. I mean, the people, you know, the groups you mentioned, those people that do that are usually confident people, capable people, And usually people like that do have egos, you know, and so and it's a competitive, men are competitive, especially men who want to hunt, shoot.
Yeah.
And so I get it. I mean, life is competition. I understand all that, but man, it's a critical time right now.
It's a critical time. I took my wife out for the first time in the last couple of years elk hunting, and even beforehand, some of, I would say, her friends, some of our friends are like, we just can't. And I wouldn't say they can't, but why do you want to do that to these beautiful animals? You know, are you hurting them or something? You're like, let me show you a picture of a antler stuck through the eye of one of these bull elk that have been fighting. Yeah. Or like the pieces of, you know, antler that have been broken off, or, you know, name the actual like fight from the, you know, bull rut perspective. Like, this is food. I eat it. Yeah. I'm a carnivore. I'm not a hypocrite. That's what I like to tell people. Like, just because I choose to kill my own food or a good portion of my meat, and I take on the responsibility of seeing the animal that I kill versus going through the In-N-Out drive-through. Yeah. Like, I feel that it's a more responsible way to be a carnivore. That's my own 2 cents. But people don't look at it that way.
I mean, I don't, you know, back when I was a kid, I didn't care. I would kill deer and kill elk. I wouldn't think about anything. But now, I mean, I don't like killing. I don't like actually watching the animal die. I mean, it's not my favorite thing to do, but it is our responsibility. It is what we do. If we're going to eat meat, somebody has to kill it. I'm not going to pay somebody else to do it for me. So that means I need to do it. My family, I don't expect them to go do it. I don't want them to pay somebody else to do it. So I'll do it for them. And that's what we eat. It doesn't mean that I enjoy killing, but I take that responsibility on. You have blood on my hands. That's the way it works. And I think a lot of people eat meat, and like, even if you know, where I elk hunt here in Oregon, they have cattle there, and right now it's like they call roundup. So they get the cows and the calves all rounded up, and they have to wean them. So they have to pull the calves off the cows. That's pretty traumatic. These cows are bellowing. The calves are, it's like, if anybody saw that, they'd be like, that's terrible. Yeah. They're taking that baby from its mother. Yeah, that happens. Right. And then in 18 months, that calf is going to be slaughtered and it's dead. And that's what you're eating. And so an 18-month-old animal is killed for you to have a hamburger that was ripped away from its mother. And on the flip side, I'm killing a bull that's 10 years old, that's been wild its entire life, that's lived the best life. You know, it's been a challenge out there for it, but it's been wild and free, and it dies by a perfectly placed arrow. To me, that's the most ethical way to do it. You know, I'm not hiding behind anything. Nobody else is killing it for me. I'm doing it. It's hard, but yeah, the alternative is pay somebody else to do it, and it has to go through this whole, you know, it's cattle industry, which that's fine. I'm in support of it, but it's not without, you know, there are some hard parts to it also. Right. If you're going to eat meat, and then even if you're not eating meat, there's still animals dying for your existence. Yeah. So nobody gets out of here free without causing death.
No, nobody gets out of it. I think from the hypocritical perspective, I think even as a vegetarian or a vegan, to be anti-hunting based on an emotional, like this is mean or whatever it might be. It's guys like, I don't know if you've driven down Main Street in America, but if you look over to your left and right, you're going to see Wendy's, you're going to see Arby's, you're going to see McDonald's. Yeah. To your point, it's a much more ethical way, and it's one of the most. It's a loud community of people that want to take our ability to hunt away. And to be that loud, it also means that they have to have a lot of meat eaters within that crowd, because they're not all living by what I would say the ethics and logic in which they're promoting for us. I don't think they quite understand it. You know, they're amazing. They're beautiful animals. Yeah. Like when when you have the opportunity, and I mean, obviously you have, but it's just like this year I had some incredible experiences. Like the hunting has provided me with animals that most people don't have. I sat in the middle of this herd in Utah. Wind was just right. I wasn't in the middle. I was like off, but they were around me. The wind was just perfect.
Yeah.
And there's a cow and a cow calf, like cow. There's cows all around. There's a couple satellite bulls and a couple spikes, and one was like raking a tree, and there's a cow calf like quite literally 8 yards from me. And it's satellite bulls are kind of moving around, doing their thing, elk stuff, like random stuff, like scraping on trees, and like doing stuff. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
I just sat there for 2 hours because the wind's perfect. I was waiting for this one bull there was the bigger bull out of those, and I was waiting for him, and I was like, I'm just going to wait him out, because if I move left or right by like 6 inches, wind's fucking perfect. I'm in a great spot. I had 2 little trees were right in front of me. I could see these other satellite bulls moving around all within about 40 yards. I'm like, if I just wait here,
something's going to happen.
Big boy's going to present himself.
Yeah.
So I just got to literally lay in the grass in the sun with these elk for 2 hours as they were doing elk stuff, just watching them, man.
Wild elk.
Dude.
How special is that?
It's almost spiritual when you think about it. Like, it was amazing. I enjoyed every minute of that experience. Every minute. Like, I don't want this to end. I actually don't even care if he presents himself right now. I don't care. And the second the wind changed, they blew out of there like they got struck by lightning.
Yeah.
But I got 2 hours with those guys.
Yeah. That's a unique experience. That's people. I mean, so we're not just obsessed with killing. Yeah. To your point, that story, nothing died there, but you were enriched by the experience of being around a wild animal for that long and watching it interact and communicate with each other. It's and then when a death does happen and you have killed, to me, there's nothing more as pure than having that weight on my back, packing my kill out of the mountains. It's like, that just feels like that's what it means to be a human. That's how you survive.
Right.
That just feels right to me. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Everything else you go through McDonald's and, they say the average American throws away 40% of their food.
Right.
In the garbage. So that includes these lives of these cows or these chickens or whatever else. So 40% of their existence is going in the garbage. And whereas hunters, we value that meat as if it were gold. So we're the opposite end of that spectrum where every ounce is cherished. And it's like, to me, that seems so easy to distinguish the difference and to embrace the hunting aspect as opposed to the consumer aspect. But I think it's just a matter of getting that message out and just explaining ourselves better.
Right. Yeah, my cousin, we're 6 months apart. He was a professor at the University of Montana for a number of years. Still does a ton of hunting and uses my grandfather's rifle from World War II to kill a cow every year or whatever. But, you remember those moments when, I was over at his house and he's like, pulls something out of the fridge. He's like, oh, you want some backstrap? And, folds out the white paper, the butcher paper. He spent the time butchering it. He shot it. He packed it. He butchered it. He wrapped it, pulled it out of the refrigerator. And, we ate as a family something that, he took in a very special and meaningful place, the same spot my grandfather shot elk, not the exact one, but, the region, right? The same spot that my great-grandfathers, like, they killed cows, they killed bulls, they killed deer. And it's like, it's not only tradition, but it's also not what I think a lot of anti-hunters think it is, because it's a more ethical way to be a carnivore. It is. I firmly believe it is.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, Tanner and his buddy Brock killed a buck yesterday, had tenderloins this morning for breakfast.
Nice.
It's just like those meals are, they'll never forget that breakfast, right? Nope. And so how often do you buy a hamburger? Do you think about that moment that,
Never.
It's like, oh, I wonder what tag number this cow had in his ear. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. My grandfather shot a moose, brought it home from Alaska when I was like 5, probably 5. I can still smell it.
Remember it.
I can still smell it because he opened up the moose. We had, 2 eggs over easy and moose sausage that my grandfather, brought back from Alaska, and I can still like feel their kitchen and smell things that were cooking it that day. And he was 5 years old.
Yeah.
You want me to recount a fucking McDonald's cheeseburger? You know what I mean?
No, I know.
It doesn't make any, doesn't even resonate.
No, that's life. That's a meaningful life, is having, killing, processing, cooking, eating that wild animal. That's how it's meant to be. Everything else is like some watered down version of that.
Yeah.
But that's how it's supposed to be. And so that's when we do it, it feels right. It feels like, okay, that's why when people hunt and it feels familiar from the get-go.
Right.
It feels like, man, I don't know why this feels familiar, but this feels like I'm supposed to be doing this, because we are.
Yeah.
And it's that, you wish you could share that with everybody, that feeling. Of course, not everybody's going to hunt because of whatever else, but just to be able to try to explain that, and maybe people listening to this and maybe who don't hunt would be like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. That's our job as hunters, to explain the tradition correctly and why it's so powerful. And it's just, I don't know. I feel personally lucky. I know you probably feel lucky too, to come from some small town redneck existence where, no, this is just what we do. This is, so now there's people who want, maybe from the outside in looking at it, and maybe they grew up in the city and they thought they were blessed by all these opportunities of the bright lights and the art and this and that. I'm just as blessed to be from a small logging town as anybody could, who grew up in New York or any faraway place that's, a tourist attraction type thing. I mean, nobody's making a vacation to go to Marcola, Oregon, but thank God I'm from there.
Dude, I think about that, and I say that a lot, where, people talk about, well, I wasn't born privileged, right? Where I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, or I wasn't born privileged. Actually, I was. Like, my parents weren't wealthy. None of nobody was. But like my entire family, for the most part, everybody, man, they were positive. They were a family. Like, I spent time with my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. We grew up in a really, really small town in the middle of nowhere. We spent time together as a family. We encouraged each other.
That's pretty rare.
We fucking loved each other.
That's pretty lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So I've changed it, because I used to talk about it, or hear people say, well, I didn't have, wealth or privilege. And I was like, actually, I had something way more important than that. Yeah. I had a dad that got up every day at 4:30 in the morning and went to work, like working in the woods. I never saw him inebriated in my life. Never saw him inebriated. I saw him, he came to every one of my baseball games. He came to my basic training graduation, special forces graduation. He showed up every fucking week.
Yeah, you're lucky.
And so that's what I got, man. I actually got something better.
That's a true silver spoon right there.
Yeah, man, I got it. It's better. It's better than the silver spoon, you know? And it's like, I got hugs. Yeah. I got people high-fiving me and telling me jokes when I was a kid. I didn't get like people punching me in the mouth. So I feel good. And I actually feel, because of that, like I've been way luckier to have been inspired and raised by a bunch of real people, You know, like I was sitting in a bar last night with my buddies in is in Maple Valley, and this dudes I knew from the Army. You know, like we're just hanging out, and I was like, "This is great, man. This is like not every day, but this is life, and these are people who are real. They're just like the people I grew up with. You know, they're not some boardroom and." You know, New York, and I've never been comfortable with that to begin with. Like, I'm not comfortable with that stuff. Like, I used to kick people out of my offices if they were wearing like expensive
dress shoes
and shirts, and
penny
if they were like, I kicked a guy out of my office, a finance guy, because he was wearing fucking gold cufflinks and a crazy watch. I was like, you got to get out of here, man. You're never gonna fit in here, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we got calluses on our hands here, even though we're like doing this. It might be from barbells, but yeah, super fortunate to have grown up where I grew up.
Wow, I think that's why you have the perspective you have, even given all this turbulence, you know, the blessings and the challenges. It's like that, your upbringing, that being around positive people, feeling that care and love, that's what's made you have the perspective you have to be able to, hey, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. I'm going to deal with this. I had this weight's on my shoulders, but I'm built for it. I mean, it's the whole journey was prepared you for this.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I still talk to everybody. Like that's the other thing. Like I still talk to my like cousin who's a diesel mechanic out in Port Orchard. I still talk to my other cousin who's a, you know, PhD in genetics in Missoula. I still talk to everybody, man.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And they don't treat me any different, which is great, because I would have it no other way. I was telling Joe this the other day. I was like, I stopped at a convenience store in Lewiston, Idaho, and I was pumping gas, and I heard from across the way in the convenience store, it's like some dude yelling, "What's up, douchebag?" Like, you know, something crazy, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, and he's like comes yelling across the parking lot, and I was like, this dude that I went to high school with, I was like really good buddy with. He's like, "What are you doing, man? You trolling for dudes or what?" You know, something, right? It just starts instantly making fun of me, and I was like, God, this is so great.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm so glad I can come home and people are like, "Man, you're a dork."
Yeah.
You're fair. Yeah, that's fair. I am. Yeah.
What a journey. Well, man, Evan, thank you for coming to my little studio here. And I know you've done a lot of podcasting, got a lot of things to do, so it means a lot that you'd come here and hang out with me. Thank you.
Dude, I love it. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it, Cam. I appreciate everything you do out there for everybody in the archery community, for, you know, inspiring a ton of guys, man. Like, you're very inspiring for a bunch of people, specifically in the veteran community, guys that, you know, I'm not speaking for everybody, but what you're doing is important, man. And I honestly can't thank you enough for having me out.
Oh, and I'm thankful Black Rifle Coffee is part of this too. Yeah. I mean, you're helping make this possible, and it means a lot. So we'll keep doing good work.
Awesome.
All right. Steve. Thank you.
Guys, it's Cameron Haynes here. I'm going to be giving away this brand new Ford Raptor 2023 fully loaded badass truck. You got 20-inch wheels, 35-inch tires. The tax man loves coming for that money, right? I'm giving away $10,000 cash to offset that for the winner. You get a truck and $10,000 in cash. I want you to win this brand new 2023 Ford Raptor. Enter to win, CameronHaynes.com. Keep hammering.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They sent their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel in dirt. Feeling like Cam Haynes.